Hey, how you doing today? My name is Relyea, and thank you so much for stopping by today. Today's a big day. Today we've got the holy trinity of Hollow Knight, if you will. We got Mossbag and Rusty here. Guys, what is up? I'm so glad you guys are here.
I'm glad to be here. My ceiling fan is up currently. That's the only thing. Dude, I really hope y'all can hear my upstairs neighbors right now. I'm kind of paranoid about that because they're straight up like they're having a tap dancing competition.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they were like going at it or something. I'm like,
yeah, keep it down. I'm trying to listen.
You know what? They probably are. I'm trying. They just make it into one of my videos by complete accident. You just hear like a bed creaking.
What's that? I forget that song, but you know what I'm talking about. Maybe not.
No.
Anyway, so today let's go ahead and let's talk about Hollow Knight Silksong. I don't know. I feel like it's not. I don't know.
Silksong isn't real.
Well, I think it's real. Mossbag, you played it, right?
I think so.
I
think that's what that was.
Maybe was that just a mod of Hollow Knight? Is that possible?
I mean, it could have been an entirely different reality. It's Australia after all.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, you were on that plane for a long time, and if the flat Earth theory is to be believed, Australia is not even real.
The plane was actually just a space shuttle. They like took you to Jupiter or some shit.
Yeah, I think that might have been it. Because that was the worst flight. Oh.
Was it really?
Oh god.
Yeah, like we were walking through the airport, and we saw those neck pillow things. We're like, that's stupid. We don't need that.
We don't need that.
We needed those.
How many hours was it?
I think that one was 16.
Ooh.
Holy shit.
Or it might have been 14. I don't know. It was long.
Jeez.
And we were going to watch movies. We were going to watch, like, Crocodile Dundee. Because, like, oh, here's a fun little movie to watch. Yeah.
Good choice. Here's a fun movie to watch for 16 hours. I
thought it was going to be a comedy, but then the guy's like, oh, the Aborigines have been totally taken advantage of. And I was like, oh, God, this is sad. Like,
I was already...
Yeah, I was already depressed, and then the movie hit me.
Oh, man.
Oh, God. I don't think I've even had a flight that's half that long. The one that I took to New York just this end of February, going into March, which was like literally days before the whole epidemic started going down. That's a good story.
Yeah.
That flight was like 2 hours, and I went to VidCon back in like 2016, very, very long time ago. And even that was like 5. I'm not well versed in the lifestyle of like flights because I haven't been on that many.
I'm just not used to civilian flights that are super long.
That just sounds
like
awful.
I've flown with the military 15 to 16 hour flights going from essentially Southern California all the way to England in the single hop.
That sounds about, yeah.
It's a long flight, but on the plus side, flying military, it's usually very, very cold. But on the plus side is we can usually lay down. We can freely move about. There's usually way more room than we need. If you're flying with the Air Force, if you're going like Army or Marines, they probably pack you in pretty tight. But we got it pretty good.
They probably just pack you into coach. Like I've been on flights before with like Army soldiers like on them.
Yeah.
And which was it was kind of a weird like it was, I wouldn't call it a wake up call, but it was like just reality hitting me in the face, because I thought like people in the Army and in the Marines like had like these special flights, and some of them do
sometimes,
but a lot of them just fly coach.
Yeah,
like they're just humble like that.
Yeah,
which is cool.
So Silksong.
Speaking of Army, Silksong.
What do we start with? Start with the release date. I literally just made a video saying, kind of setting the tone for.
I watched it.
Right?
It made me very sad.
I didn't realize. So honestly, it could come soon. Just to kind of backtrack. At this point, it could quote unquote come soon. But when Nintendo E3 happened, we've been hanging on to the term coming soon for far too long, and it should have been to be announced. So. I don't know.
I mean, maybe it could have been just Nintendo, because I don't want to chalk it up to malicious intent or anything,
Oh,
like
it wasn't.
Nintendo purposefully
It
playing
definitely
blind to build hype. I think they just said coming soon as like a placeholder. Like,
So-
they didn't really mean to build hype around it.
Yeah. So I talked to
Lef?
Yes, I talked to Lef, and he was saying that it actually showed coming soon on the Steam page for a little while. So kind of similar how the date was up there wrong. They had put TBA on there, and it showed coming soon, and that's where Nintendo had pulled that from. So it wasn't malicious on Nintendo's part. It was a mistake, but I just got that tidbit of information after I posted the video. So
yeah, it's honestly difficult to gauge situations like this because like Team Cherry they're one of those studios where they want everything to be like sealed shut. Like they pride themselves, and I think this is a good thing for studios just in general to do this. They pride themselves in not having like all of their details for the game are just sealed shut. Like they do not want a single bit of it because they want it to be a huge surprise. So like that, when was it, Mossbag? You had a tweet about something like 9 months ago at this, like Steam had accidentally, air quotes, leaked a potential release date, which is like June 12th, I think.
June 12th.
Yeah. And like, I keep on thinking, it's like, of course, like if you're put in that position, if you suddenly have just the potentially true release date just staring you in the face, you can't just like, if you want to be as cryptic as they want to be with this, they wouldn't just come out and say, ah, shit, you got us, you know, June 12th, ring the bells, it's coming. Like, of course they would say something like, oh, that's not real.
that's true.
So
that's
like,
true.
I'm not really sure.
Well,
It could,
so
it couldn't.
The June 12th date, that was actually floating around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
I think on some Italian site or some German site, it said that like within the same week that the Silksong trailer dropped. And so like it just never caught too much traction. And for me, like it never made sense that would be accurate because Team Cherry does not give release dates unless it's like 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out. And the way that they just add stuff, like they've been saying ever since they announced Silksong, we might just keep adding things in more and more.
Yeah.
And so it always seemed like
that's what
that.
they did.
Yeah. So I never believed that date would ever be accurate at all. I'd always assumed like that would be the best possible date. More likely it'd be later than that.
It'd be holiday season, I'm anticipating. Like, at the absolute earliest, at this point, I'd say holiday season 2020.
That's what I was thinking, partially for the fact that Nintendo is kind of hurting for the holiday season, and if they are going to announce it, I imagine if they're smart, I would expect it to be released at like a Nintendo Direct type deal where there's a lot of eyeballs, just because now that this game has gotten bigger than just some small little indie game that's just kind of out there. It seems like Nintendo is using Silksong, and it's part of their marketing at this point. So I feel like it would come out on a Direct. It would hit a big announcement.
Right.
So.
Otherwise, there'd be no reason for it to be debuted on Treehouse, I guess. Because I think Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo beans. I think Nintendo wants their name to be as synonymous as possible with that release.
Yeah, so I don't know if Nintendo paid Team Cherry to make it so that way they were released first. I'm sure the numbers are out there, but Mossbag, do you know if Nintendo Switch sold way better on the Nintendo Switch as compared to Xbox or PlayStation?
I don't have the figures, but that is the case for every title, seemingly.
Fair enough.
It always does better on Switch. So, and it has been out longer on Switch. It sold 250,000 copies on Switch in like 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it blew up.
So, yeah.
And
good.
I know it was Nintendo came to Team Cherry and said, let's release Hollow Knight for Switch during E3, because that was a big deal. When Reggie's up there and he's like, you'll be able to play Hollow Knight today.
Yeah.
And then everyone on the subreddit and Discord shit their pants. So I think that because Silksong is actually launching on Switch as well as PC, Nintendo might have more pull into when the release date is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, it's going to be ready when it's ready, and that's going to be Team Cherry's decision.
I really hope Team Cherry doesn't take too much of it to heart, because I think there are just as many people on one side that's willing to be patient for it to come out, and they're also like the entire second half of like just the community in general is starting to get a little impatient for it, and they're starting to be a little pushy. And like I hope they realize, Team Cherry, I hope Team Cherry realizes that there's really no pressure on them at all to do this.
100%.
But like at the same time, I also don't want them to be meticulous with every little thing, because like I do that when I'm editing too. Like perfection is a very strange beast, or perfectionism rather. And I don't want them to get too tied up in making the perfect game that we don't see it for like another 2 or 3 years, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't want them to feel pressure in either aspect of that.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing in the comments, most people are like, you know what, it's okay to wait. If anything, it seems like a vocal minority of people who are like, it needs to hurry up. We haven't had any information.
Yeah.
I think it's a minority. I think most people are like, hey, you know what, we're willing to wait. There's just too many games that get released quickly and they're just garbage. Or they're just overly broken. I know it won't ever release in the same state as something like Fallout 76. It's just right out it would never happen. So I don't know. I don't think Nintendo will have any say as to when the game will release. I just think that Team Cherry will use Nintendo as a way to amplify the release date, so then that way the information can hit more people and it'll just have a better launch.
Yeah, I think it's going to have an amazing launch.
Oh,
it's going to sell incredibly well.
Yeah. This many people getting blue-balled by the lack of a release date. Like when it hits, it's gonna hit.
Yeah,
like 100%.
What's your theory on the release date, Mossbag? I think before you were saying it was like possibly even 21. I can't remember.
I do want to say one more thing, real quick.
Yeah.
I think right now the community has been pretty good about being patient, especially when you compare it to when we were all waiting for Hollow Knight to drop on Switch. There were a lot of people who were like, "Hurry up, get this game out." Yeah. Because, you know. But I would say that Silksong, the trailer for Silksong, came out back in February of last year. And I think we have to understand that it probably is not that far along when they did that. And that they would have had to release the trailer closer to... Like, we didn't know that Silksong was a completely new sequel. We all thought it was a DLC. So they had to show, like, look, we're making a full game. So it's very possible that what we saw for Silksong is literally all they have done.
That's true.
Back in February.
Right.
Because everyone was saying, oh, it looks like it's almost finished and all that stuff, and it's just like, no.
No.
Because there's even bugs and glitches you can see in the trailer. Like the Lifeblood cocoon, or the Lifeblood hearts, the masks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the knight, or it's the knight's masks instead of hornets, stuff like that.
Oh, interesting. I didn't notice that.
Yep. Yeah, the Lifeblood masks in the trailer were like different shapes. It was like, because like Hornet's mask are like they're pointed on the top, and the Lifeblood weren't.
But in terms of release date, I do think late 2020 is possible. Holiday 2020 is possible, but I wouldn't be surprised if it went into 21.
Yeah.
I would say holiday 2020 at the earliest.
I could see it coming earlier, but that's just pure speculation. I don't have insider information or anything. So.
It's just a theory.
Yeah, in my Silksong speculation video that I posted, where I said, ooh, the next update's going to be in April, everyone thought I had some secret info. And then that was just... it was completely wrong. And so...
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had stuff like that happen in my videos, too. I think... I had, like, this Silksong wish list video, I think. And it was something I did back in February, and... The headcanon I had was that because they had a teaser trailer on Valentine's Day 2019, I thought that 2020's Valentine's Day would give something a little bigger, and I was anticipating that, and then like Valentine's Day came and not a goddamn thing got released. So like a few days later, the next video was just like, hey, a lot of people are saying I had like insider information or whatever. That's not true. I don't know and no one else does either.
Yeah, that's probably the hard part, not knowing.
The Sonic
anything.
movie came out that day,
Yeah.
so you got that right.
Yeah, I mean, that's all. That is true. We got
That's not
something,
nothing.
just not like a trailer or anything. Because I was anticipating obviously I wasn't anticipating the game to drop or anything, but I think I said something along the lines of, like, with Silksong on its way sooner than a lot of people might think. Like, and that phrase that I said was like a trigger for people to just go haywire and be like, oh, he knows.
Yep.
My thing is to always say longer than people might think,
There
because
you go.
people have too much hope in this
That's
world.
the harsh truth of it. Yeah.
So my prediction is late 20,000.
Yeah, I would say holiday season, like at the absolute earliest.
Yeah.
Like if it does drop holiday season 2020, it would honestly be a miracle.
Yeah.
But I think they're taking much more time with the game than they did Hollow Knight. Because even in their updates, they're talking about just how large and how open it is.
It's so, yeah, I know some people were talking about how back in December, they had more enemies than they had originally were shooting for, right? Well, I forget what the totals were. But it was enough to be like, okay, well, that's a lot of enemies, but there's so much more that goes into the game than just creating the enemies and the couple mechanics that they need for the animating them and whatever else. It's like,
I think
it's a lot.
I think the last total they had was like 165.
Yeah.
The blog post in December said that they had reached 156.
There you go.
And the trailer said over 150 enemies. So
they just kept adding shit.
And then which
is cool.
And I think they said Hollow Knight had 155. I can't remember because the actual Hunter's Journal
sounds right.
The Hunter's Journal has 164, but there's
bosses in there too.
Bosses I think are part of what they're saying, but that also includes the Seal of Binding, the God Seeker's Mask, the electric Lumafly things that aren't really enemies, they're just obstacles.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 170 enemies, 180, even way more than what was in Hollow Knight.
I always like get real curious about like what order do they build things, like how much of it is they build the world and then they fill it in with enemies and then they throw the lore in later. Like how much did they already have of the story before they built out the world? Like I imagine they've got a general or a pretty good idea of what the story is before they even design the levels, but I don't know, stuff like that, it always I don't know, I get really interested in all that kind of stuff, like what's the order?
Everyone has a different creative process.
I'm sure. And I'm sure if there's something that just doesn't make any sense, they're like, well, let's just create a new character.
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead.
Oh, so like stuff like Mr. Mushroom, they said, oh, we looked at this one area in Fungal Wastes where Cornifer used to be, and when he was gone, it felt empty, so we just added Mr. Mushroom in. So they just like add stuff whenever they want.
Yeah.
And I have like asked them, like, do you guys have like a design doc, or do you plan everything out? And I didn't really get an answer for that, but yeah, it just kind of seems like they make it up as they go along. Like, oh, that would be cool if we did this or that.
Just
like,
Stephen Kinging their way through Hollow Nest.
Yeah, William did tell me something. One of the nights I was at PAX, he basically said, "There's this cool part of making the game where certain things just come together in this perfect way." So they had the glowing womb charm, and then they had the Defender's Crest charm, and they were like, William was like, or Ari or whoever said, well, what if they turn into little turds when the two charms are equipped together. And then, okay, well, what happens when you sit on a bench? The little flies will sit down and turn into
They take
little...
a rest with you, yeah.
Yeah, they turn into coiled up little poop balls, and William just started laughing about that, and he said that's just
definitely...
it's like an organic thing that just came out of developing something else.
Yeah, that's definitely something they added late game, because like little nuances like that, I can't imagine they had something like that. It's like, and then then they proceed to be like, okay, well, it's time to build the level of the place. Like,
Yeah.
like a nuance like that definitely came like 1 or 2 months before the release at max.
Well, I know that they were adding voices in like 3 days before the game came out.
That's nuts.
Oh yeah,
So-
because they had like a fuck ton of Kickstarter backers and stuff.
Yeah, and then I could tell you tons of different little stories I've heard from their interviews about when they add things in. Like, they were in an interview and the person asked, what happens when you die in Hollow Knight? And they're like, oh, I guess you'll have to wait and see. And then after the interview, they said, okay, what actually happens when you die? And so then they put that in, and then
That's great.
William was like, hey, we should put a banker in the game. And Ari was like, only if they steal your money. Like, he immediately said that. So, and I hear that William and Ari are like on the exact same wavelength when it comes to all of this stuff.
That's fun.
They're like,
I can tell, like,
yeah,
you gotta have good chemistry for
they
stuff
both
like
are
that.
so ready to punish the character, whether it's the Path of Pain or the freaking Hall of Gods. I mean, oof, they get you good.
Ooh, that's a good discussion we could have. What was probably the so we've all done like boss commentaries and like boss tier lists and everything. Everyone has like that one boss that everyone else thinks is like the easiest shit in the world, but like you personally just can't fight. And for me, that's always been the Watcher Knights. I can't stand them. I can't get there. Like, there's something that, like, when two of them appear at once, there's something in my brain that just gets short-circuited, and it just turns me into an idiot, and I die in, like, the stupidest way possible.
I know mine is probably Marmu. Just that beach ball thing it always messes up my timing. I always want to use Abyss Shriek, but as soon as I do, it bounces, like, out of the range of the ability of the spell, and yeah, that one just
the physics on that one will you
gets me every time. What about you, Mossbag?
I was gonna say Marmu,
Yeah.
so I'll have to.
Marmu's a close second or third for me.
Something
She's
about
just
it.
annoying.
Yeah.
Ugh.
One boss that I always thought was like particularly not easy, but like not as hard as people write home about, I guess, is probably Pure Vessel. Like, a lot of people talk about how hard it is to like keep track of all his movesets and everything, but it really just comes down to like reaction time. It's like, oh, he's doing this, do this thing. He's doing this, do this thing.
Yeah.
And, like,
Well, the good thing about Pure Vessel is it's very constructed. Like, I feel like there's a very set system that it goes through where
it
you
feels
know how to.
choreographed.
Definitely.
Yeah, whereas Marmu is just like, who cares? It's just flying wherever it wants. Who cares?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so that, and then right up there with Morkoth, right?
Fuck Markov.
I was expecting that. That one. It just has so much. It's such a big sense of random, right? Of RNG, which is tough.
Yeah, just like there's way too many things in the fight that are going on at once, and like any given attack Markov has like by itself is easy, but it's the fact that he strings them both together. Like, it's the fact that like he's summoning all these needles at you, and he has like 2 dream shields that he's like beating the piss out of you with.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely strategy to it, right? The way I always dealt with him is you just save all your soul. That way you can Shade Soul him or Abyss Shriek him in his second half
Yeah.
to avoid dealing with the shields as
Yep.
much as possible. And then you can't stay on the sides of the walls because the swords can appear outside of your field of vision, and you can just get totally screwed over. So, yeah, on his own in the game it's fine, but when you have him in Godhome, it's like so much more difficult to deal with.
It's because of his verticality. Like if he stayed, like if his levitation was a little more predictable, I think it would be so easy. Like he would be just like another dream boss. But because they are platforms you have to pay attention to, and because he like moves around, because he has like that dimensionality to him, I guess, like he has a lot of verticality to his fight, which just like it makes him that much harder.
Do you guys compare every other boss in every other game to Hollow Knight at this point?
I don't know. I think Hollow Knight is definitely the game that I've stuck with as far as like returning to it, like taking a break and then returning to it. Hollow Knight is the last game in recent memory I've done that with that isn't Dark Souls or Bloodborne, and those games I think are comparable enough on their like in their own right. Yeah. So like I would honestly say I don't know. I can't think of a game that does boss fights like Hollow Knight, because I think Hollow Knight is the last game in my library, I guess, like that I still go back to. Like I've played a lot of games between 2017 and this year, and I've only continuously went back to Hollow Knight.
Makes sense.
So I don't know.
What about you, Mossbag?
See, I'm kind of different. I barely play video games. Like I played Hollow Knight, and since then I've maybe played Cuphead and a lot of Smash Bros. I've played through Dark Souls and Bloodborne, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like they're kind of like Dark Souls bosses, right? It's wait for them to attack and then counterattack. You see that in a lot of their boss designs. But there's a lot of variety within it. Like, I don't know, no eyes, you're dodging stuff. I guess you're dodging stuff in all of them. I don't know. I think one thing that makes Hollow Knight unique that I really like is the soul mechanic. I think that's really what makes boss fights really fun. And like, because if you're a newbie, you can kind of like, you need to get to a stopping point where the enemy is staggered and you can heal.
Yep.
But if you're really good at the game, you can just go on the offensive and
you just face
use
tank
that.
It. Yeah.
Well, you can, not get hit and then use your soul to deal damage.
Yep.
And I think that adds a lot of cool, interesting dynamics to the game. Like,
yeah,
a lot of decisions you have to make.
Yeah, because in Dark Souls you have the flask. You got to find a point in the boss fight to utilize it to heal. And then you have, buffs that you can use. Hollow Knight kind of takes all that and rolls it into one thing with the soul. And I really like that. And you gain soul from hitting enemies. It's just, I think it's a really good combination that they came up with.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that Hollow Knight, I would say, kind of does better than Souls games, in my opinion. Because, like, in Dark Souls, your flask was a flask. Because, like, the timing was, like you had to time your heals, you had to time your flasks with, like, during the downtime of a boss's attack pattern or whatever. And that was really all there was, like, to it. But in Hollow Knight, you have charms that can speed up the animation of your heal, or like have you move while you're healing. And like, I think it's that extra layer of like depth that kind of makes, like, it turns it into something that could have been a, like, just a Souls, like, air quotes, and it makes it something much more multifaceted.
Yeah, they just did a great job.
Because you have those charms there as an extra layer.
Yeah, and kind of to both your guys' points, it's you could use charms that help you with your nail build and then only heal when you need it, or you can go with the spell build once you've mastered the nail. Like, I felt like I was definitely way more of a nail build until I learned the bosses and the enemies. I could get comfortable to build up the soul, and then I didn't need the soul to heal. I could then use the soul to go on the offensive. So it made the game kind of slowly evolve my play style over time. It was really fun in that regard.
What's your guys' go-to loadout, like when you're facing like a really hard like end game boss like Pure Vessel or NKG or Abzerad? Is like, what's like your go-to?
Ooh, Mossbag, you go first.
I always do strength, so quick slash, Mark of Pride, unbreakable strength. And like the Pantheons, if I'm overcharmed, I'll have Sprint Master on there, and maybe something else. I don't know. I always do strength.
Yeah.
Just because you can get so much DPS out. Just
Yeah.
standing in front. Like, Crystal Guardian just melts
Yeah,
when you have
just
quick
slash and then dead.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way as far as usually strength, but I also throw on Shaman Stone, just because the extra damage it's just so good.
It's really nice.
Yeah, and then usually Mark of Pride, and then I didn't like it at first, but Sharp Shadow is really good for a lot of boss fights. There's very few
Sharp
times...
Shadow is super good.
Yeah.
It's very underrated for like a lot of I know one build that I've been a fan of. I didn't feel like this would work for a lot of bosses, but when I did Absrat in the Pantheon, the build I finally got to work for me was Market Pride, Shaman Stone, and Soul Eater. And I think I had Grub Song just as the extra one, just to like make sure I was topped off on soul at all times.
Yeah, there you go.
Because Absrat's like it's a stationary boss. So like when you hit it with Abyss Shriek, you don't have to worry about it bouncing around. Like she's gonna take the full damage from that Abyss Shriek if you catch her with it, which is like that with Shaman Stone is just huge amounts of damage. It's like you like upstrike her with a nail, Abyss Shriek, upstrike, and just like repeat that, and it just shreds her.
Have either of you been attempting to do the bosses on Radiant?
I'm working through it.
Nice.
I've definitely haven't done Absrat on Radiant. That's a pretty tall order. I think my crowning achievement right now is a Radiant Pure Vessel.
Nice.
I have that footage somewhere, but that's probably the best thing I've done in the Pantheons right now.
Not bad. What about you, Mossbag?
I think it was last August I went through and I got all the Radiant fights for all the bosses. So I've done everything.
Dang.
I've done
you go.
Radiant, Absolute Radiance, which was that was quite a challenge.
Quite the feat.
So, but it was exhilarating.
I bet.
So then after I did that, I moved on to getting all of the Pantheons with the charms. So
All the bindings?
all the bindings, yeah. So I have done it, but I haven't done it like with all the charms at once or all the bindings at once because that's ridiculous. I think if you do Pantheon of Halnest, it'll take like 3 hours to do all bindings, and I can't get past Collector and
I don't have the attention span for that.
Great Prince Zoe. It's just
I feel like my
too much.
short ass attention span like prevents me from practicing a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like you, like I don't play video games too much, and I feel like if I actually did apply myself and take time out of like my usual like my other routines, and actually like get good as the kids say it, I feel like I actually could, but just like I make a lot of videos. I made more so back when TGN was active, but like a lot of my daily routine is just like capture footage for this, edit for that. I have a script to write today, I have a VO to do, so I just clear that out, and that's like 90% of my day.
I've been trying to do some more Let's Play type stuff so I could just kind of experience some more games before Silksong comes out, because once that game comes out, I'm going to drop everything and just do nothing but
Yep.
Silksong for a little while. I'll probably take a couple of days off of work for my day job just to be able to do that. So I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, I don't know. I've been playing a handful of other games, but just less people want to see that kind of stuff, at least on my channel anyways. So I don't know, it just keeps things fresh, and then every time I come back to Hollow Knight, it feels nice. It feels like I'm coming back home,
Coming back to an old friend.
yeah.
You played Subnautica for a while. Is that still going, or did you finish that series?
I finished the series, but it was really fun. I am looking out forward to the sequel, the Subnautica Below Zero. So that's in a early access state right now.
Oh.
So I think they're getting pretty close to finishing that one, but I think I'll wait till they complete it instead of playing it several times through.
I didn't even know there was a sequel for that coming out.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been really fun. It's been good. I like it.